Yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool. Well,
We're live. Hello, everyone.
welcome to She's a Vlog, where we are together again. Um,
Seems like a long time.
yeah, I've just come back from Bali a couple days ago, and now we're on holiday in Melbourne, which is fun and exciting.
Because you're moving.
I'm moving.
She's not coming back to Sydney with me.
No, bye.
I don't know if I want to high five her.
Yeah, I'm moving. I've got one more stop, one more destination on my little holiday, which is Fraser Island. And for all of those who aren't from Australia, it's like the biggest sand island in the world. And I'm going there for 2 weeks. And then
You're camping, aren't you?
no, I'm not camping. I've
Oh,
got a house with everyone.
oh, luxury.
hmm
Nice.
Which is really luxurious actually. So
Mm.
I'm excited to not live in a tent again. So yeah. And
Do you think you ever will live in a tent again, Juliet?
I've lived in a tent twice, once for 4 months, once for 1 month. I would do it on another like road trip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would ever do it like just living in a tent.
Yeah.
I don't think I would do that again. But I would do it like if it meant like I got to camp and travel, like backpacking and stuff. Yes.
Yeah, and I think anything up from a tent or anything like even like a van or a caravan or something would be luxury compared.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so now that you've
Even
lived,
just a car. Even just a car.
yeah,
That's big enough for a bed to lie
yeah,
down in.
yeah,
It's
right.
luxurious
Well,
compared to what I've used to traveling in.
hard walls, maybe, like that you've got walls with structure
Yes.
and not
Yeah.
just canvas.
Yeah. Not just, yeah, fabric.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
think that's good that you did that.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, because it kind of like when you do stuff like that, it makes you appreciate everything else. It makes you appreciate anything that's a step up from there.
And also you realize how little you need in life.
Yeah,
And to be happy at
yeah,
least.
to be happy. Yeah,
I
awesome.
think I think it's really taught me the value of something as simple as a shower
Mm.
and a flushing toilet. Like even in New Zealand, there being a shower with hot water was like it only happened once and you had to pay for it, but still, like it was so like, oh my God, there's warm water. And then anytime we were backpacking on the trails, like at one point we did like a 6 day hike and there was flushing toilets on the hikes and we were like, oh my God, there's flushing toilets. Like,
So with that, like let's talk about toilets for a
mhm,
second.
yeah.
Flushing toilets because I've never experienced that. I've always had a flushing toilet. So what is the big deal really?
Well, just
Is
that
it the
it's,
smell?
yeah, and also
So
like,
if you had a toilet that didn't smell but didn't flush, it would be okay.
yeah, I mean,
It's the smell.
putting your
Yes,
rear end over
actually,
and it's very
yes.
vulnerable.
Yes, actually, I went to a toilet like that at the snow.
You feel like something's gonna grab you.
Yes, it's
Mm,
the psychology of it
yeah. But it's
because there's
mostly the
no
smell.
water.
No, Mum, you have no idea the flies in the toilets that like
Oh,
in the
that's
composting toilet. That it was
you know
we
that's
should
part of
talk
nature.
about this on a
No,
podcast,
but
but it was
but
really
it's
bad.
interesting, and I want to know. It's interesting because, and I think that people listening would be interested too, because if you've never, experienced that, which I haven't,
Just
so
got in my
I don't
tent.
really. Camping's never been a huge, you know, dream of mine. But
Dream.
yeah, well, it's not something that I think because I was a flight attendant for so long,
Yeah, you got to travel and
I
get paid.
traveled, yeah, and I did it like in
Mm,
hotels and stuff.
yeah.
So yeah, traveling
Well,
around Australia, I didn't need to camp.
but yeah, the flies were really bad.
Yeah, and I know that's nature because the flies help break down the waste, right? Like that's all part of the
Yeah,
decomposing.
but you're not really thinking
But
about that when they're literally gonna
yeah,
fly up your crack. Like,
or
it sounds.
even landing on your arm or on your face or something like
It was a
you
swarm.
think to
There
yourself,
was
they've been down there in the poo. They're landing on me. I don't like no.
there's like I'm not even joking. There was hundreds in them. Like in
Where
one.
are we talking? Where were you?
I was. Well, there were. This was all
Is this
over
in New Zealand?
New Zealand. Yeah, this was all over New Zealand.
So these are camp toilets.
Camp toilets. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you've just hiked 20 kilometers. The last thing, well, not maybe not 20 in one day.
So
That's a big day.
maybe
But
we're
like you hiked
talking.
like 10 kilometers and then you go for your nightly thing, or you're about to hike 10 kilometers. And yeah, that's what you have to. It's a bit,
I think I'd want to dig my own trench, my own hole.
yeah.
Yeah, I would want to do that. Want to have my own personal.
Yeah, but you're not even allowed to bury toilet paper. You have to carry it with you.
Oh, yeah, right. And you were saying that in Bali too.
Yeah, in Bali, you don't flush, you chuck it. But there's a bin in the toilet itself. You don't have to carry it around.
Yeah, but the idea, like this, we're talking here. All of this stuff is all mental
Why?
because
What, what
if
do
it
you
was
mean?
normal for you to do that, then I don't think you would be having the ick. You know, like if you grew up
No,
having,
I would.
would you
If I grew up in a world where I couldn't,
put the toilet paper in
where
the
I had to
toilet?
carry around my own toilet paper,
But you're not carrying it around in Bali.
no, but we're talking about like a mixture of Bali and,
All right.
but I would be like, that's a bit weird. I think can't just leave it where
Where
I
would
did
you
it.
put it after you've carried it
You
everywhere?
would wait the whole trail. You would get to the end where there's a bin, and then you would chuck
Yeah,
it.
that's so. Did you have a plastic bag? Where were you putting it?
No, I did. I didn't go off
Oh, you put
trail.
it in the hole.
Yeah,
You
because
didn't
I
carry it with
waited
you.
till the toilets.
No, were you carrying the paper with you after you went to the toilet?
No, because I always went in the toilet, in the camp toilet.
Right.
I didn't do anything else. Yeah.
Okay.
Should we talk about yoga now?
Yeah. Yeah, enough toilet talk.
Toilet talk.
Yeah, we should have put that in our description. We do the toilet talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting. I think it's interesting.
No, I think it is because it shows the difference of like, yeah, what you actually need in life and what you
And
don't.
how we're conditioned, like how we live in society to think that certain things are okay and certain other things aren't okay, but it's not really because of anything like yes, it's hygiene, but it's also the idea of carrying your toilet paper around with you till you can put it in it. Like, and to me, toilet paper isn't really an environmental hazard. So why?
Yeah.
Really,
I
why are
think
we
because
doing
the
that?
bleach in
Right.
and then if you also a lot of hikers don't want to deal with their own waste and so they just chuck the toilet paper on top
All
and
right.
then like animals get to it
Yeah, right.
and it's not good for
Before it
animals
breaks
to
down.
yeah it's not good for animals to eat the paper, it's not good for animals to be in your waste. I feel like maybe that's not even a component, but I don't know, it's just because people don't know, they don't want to deal with their own waste and they don't know how, they just leave toilet paper everywhere in the woods, like they don't
Yeah,
bury it.
that's not good.
And so I think that's why. So the parks are just like you have to bring it with you.
Yeah, right.
Or maybe I'm completely wrong about that. Also, maybe that's just what people told. This is what people told me, not what like no park ranger was giving out this information. This is just what I heard on the trail,
Yeah,
like
right.
that you shouldn't be burying it.
Yeah.
So Yeah, but I think it's a really interesting um take on like actually I was thinking about this the other day. So me and mum watched a survival movie, and I was genuine like a doomsday, the world's ending and like it's complete drama kind of movie,
What was it called?
Greenland.
Yeah.
And I was watching it and I was like, we live in a world where we don't even know how to live on Earth without
Mm.
like if the
We're
internet
totally dependent.
if the internet went down, there would be chaos. There would be everyone would go in the shops and like take steal, like everyone would loot, everyone would cause anarchy. And internet 30 years ago wasn't really even much of a thing.
Hmm.
Like in
One
the
generation. That's all
in
it
the
takes.
80s and 90s, like there was no internet.
Mm.
And in that
That's
time,
why that's why you see all these memes all the time. I'm a meme lover, as you know, if you're in the group. You know, I share so many memes. But there's a meme that talks about Gen Xers as like you don't mess with Gen X because we are the generation that crossed over. We didn't grow up with the internet, but then we became teenagers and the internet was introduced. So we've got a foot in both worlds, really.
I feel
So, you know, it's like you don't really you don't mess with people like us because, well, not me, but you know, that's what the memes are saying. It's like you don't mess with them because we grew up latchkey kids.
Mhm.
So our parents were at work. Um, we had to entertain ourselves when we were kids, so our imaginations are very well developed. And then when we became teenagers and early 20s, we had the internet. So then we mastered that. So we've got like everything covered.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing really, and something that I'm actually glad that we're talking about is the survival skills. I think we need to like give ourselves that.
But the thing,
Just growing plants,
yeah, it's
growing
really
food and things
it's
like that.
it's really wild to me that we don't learn in school how to
Yes.
sustain ourselves.
And
It's
that people don't even think about it.
like if tomorrow a huge cataclysm was to happen. I mean, we go through a media stream called the Torrid media stream. We go through it twice a year. Basically like just Russian roulette. Is anything going to hit us? I mean, it's not really because I guess space is really big, but we do go through a meteor stream where like there's thousands of meteors and we just
And
like go through them.
they do hit Earth sometimes.
They do hit Earth sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's never, I don't, yeah, it's not like,
They're not big enough to make
yeah, but
yeah.
12, 13,000 years ago, there, there was
Mm-hmm.
a big cataclysm and it doesn't get talked about enough. It's like kind of what killed all the megafauna in America. So like the giant mammoths and the saber-toothed tiger and all of that. There's kind of debate going on like were they hunted to extinction, but it's like a lot of scientists say they were hunted to extinction, but it doesn't
Mm,
make sense because they
mm.
all died at once within like a 100-year period or something. And the population stayed the same. The human population stayed the same. So how are they killing? It's just doesn't work. It's like
The math
impossible.
doesn't add up.
And there was another huge cataclysm that year that caused like mass floods, and it was a meteor or a comet or some extraterrestrial thing. I don't know the difference between asteroid, meteor, and comet, but it was one of those things, and it kind of caused the world to go into chaos. And I feel like we put ourselves in these false pretenses of, well, nothing major has
Mhm.
happened in our lifetime or like in the human lifetime, but it has many times. We've dealt with a lot of big cataclysms, and just because we have the internet and we can see comets coming at us now doesn't mean like something else might happen. And it's not about doomsday, I don't like that, but just
Well,
because I don't think it would end
what
up being.
harm can it do to have survival
Well,
skills? What
that's
harm can it do
it.
to
Just like
anyone?
gardening, just
Yeah,
gardening skills, or like I learning how to identify plants out, like foraging.
that's a huge one.
Yeah, foraging
Because I just
knowledge.
finished watching the first season of Alone, and
Mm-hmm.
the Australian version of it, and they go through a week boot camp before they get tossed out into the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
And they're told under no circumstances are you to eat any of the fungi on wherever it is. And so these people, they could have, like, they could probably survive maybe a week more or a month more, who knows, if they knew which mushrooms
Plants.
to stay away from and which ones to eat. If they had that knowledge, it would make their time so much easier, because, like, we don't have examples of how to survive in the wilderness except for these shows on telly, right? Like Alone. Because some of, like, yeah, okay, it's reality television, but some of the stuff that they're doing out there is real.
Mm.
Some of their survival techniques, and you watch the people, and the mindset of the people is what is the difference between giving up and continuing, and how long they can stay out there is their mindset. Some people can't stay out there alone. They need to have interaction with other people. And the woman who actually won the show, she's this amazing woman. Her name's Gigi, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she lives, actually, her life, she lives in a think like a tiny home with no electricity and no running water.
Yeah,
So living the way she was living out there in a shelter, and she had to make her own fire and kill her own
that's so cool.
animals, she won because to her it was just living life. There
That's
was no
awesome.
special, there was nothing special about it for her. It was an extension of how she lives. And yes, of course, it was harder because she didn't have, like we were saying at the beginning of the show, four walls. She had a tarp, and she covered it with branches and leaves and things like that to keep warm. So it was very cold. But as far as everything else was concerned, she took salt with her. They were allowed to take 10 items. She took salt.
Wow.
Nobody else took salt because she knew she was going to be losing, because, she had to hunt. And so she knew she wasn't going to be eating regularly, and to
The
keep
electrolytes.
her body healthy and to stop the weight coming off too quickly, she brought salts for the electrolytes, and that's what helped her win the game,
Wow.
as well as some luck. She got a wallaby when she went to the bathroom, and in the middle of the night, talking toilets again, and a wallaby just came up to her and she jumped on it.
Wow.
She
That's
didn't
actually
even
quite
hunt it.
dangerous. They're like they've got claws,
Yeah,
dude.
but she was starving.
Yeah, of course.
So she just, and
I
the
didn't even know you could eat. Do you mean wallaby or wombat?
wallaby,
Wallaby. Oh,
yeah,
okay. I
she,
was
yeah, wallaby.
thought you
She
said
just
wombat.
jumped on it. She went to the bathroom and there it was, and she jumped on it and she killed
Wow.
it, and that was, you know, one of that, and the salt, I think, was what helped her win the game,
Wow.
because she was the healthiest out of all of them. Because they get like med checks and stuff, they would
Yeah.
come in, and if they were too thin or if their blood pressure wasn't right or whatever, they'd be pulled out. So yeah, she so that was a huge, for me, that was like a huge confirmation that the way we interact with the land
Mhm.
emotionally and mentally
Yeah.
is a huge part of survival.
Mm-hmm.
And knowledge of plants, and because if you can't, if there's no animals, like there's an Alone series done in the States where they're in Antarctica and there's no animals in winter, like they all bunker down, because they have to have knowledge of plants. They have to go around and find, forage, and survive off the bare minimum.
Jesus, I would hate that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I think the guy who won that series, it was a mental game. The woman who was second, came second to him. I think she forfeited before before he did, and
Yeah.
that's what won it for him, was the longevity of it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So it's all meant, the mental and the knowledge,
Mm.
and that's something that we can teach ourselves and our kids
Mm.
now. We can give them that stuff.
I think we need to normalize it. It's so like, oh, you're not one of those doomsday preppers.
No,
And
it's just
doomsday,
being interested. It's just
yeah,
being interested in nature.
yeah,
And our and that's what the winner, Gigi, that's what she talks about. When you see her in interviews and stuff, she talks about our relationship to the land, and the knowledge that gets passed down through the generations in Indigenous cultures and things like that. Like, she talks about the importance of those things.
mm,
And I think she's right. I think it really is important. And it's not about being a doomsday prepper, because you don't know, you
yeah,
probably never use it. But to have that knowledge is so precious.
mm,
Because imagine how much richer your life would be if you were, somebody who enjoyed being in nature, and you're walking through a trail and that bird, that tree, information about the grasses,
yeah,
it's like that trek through the wilderness is going to be so much richer and deeper because of the knowledge that you hold about it.
yeah,
Like, that in itself is amazing.
100%. Even just one thing, so I did when I was in New Zealand, I did like a star observatory tour thing,
Hmm.
and I learned how to get south with
By the
how to
stars.
find south with the stars.
Mm.
And I will never forget that. I mean, to be fair, second I'm in the Northern Hemisphere, it's not going to help me,
Yeah.
but at least in Australia it will. And it's like such a handy thing because once you learn south, then you know what's north and then you know east and west. And
Mm.
it's
Well,
a
just by
really good
just
way of
yeah, navigating.
navigating and just knowing that. And it's actually not that hard, like to know.
Mm.
It's and once you get it, you kind of get it. Because in the southern hemisphere, we don't have like a north star that's the south. Like we don't have a southern star that's just like, oh, that's
I'll follow that.
yeah. We have like it's called the Southern Cross. The Southern Cross points to south and you kind of it's a little bit more complicated, but it's once you get it, it's actually not complicated at all. And it's
Well,
like,
it's not just one star. Like, there's a
yeah,
process.
and it's really helpful and you can just like go on YouTube and figure it out. And then you know how to find south at nighttime.
That's what I was going to say. Like, watching this series alone, like, I've watched the Aussie one, and I think I've watched one or two American ones, and they teach you things in the show, which is great.
Yeah.
Because, like, there was a guy who was trying to figure out what time it was, and of course he didn't have a watch, because you're only allowed to bring 10 things, apart from your clothes and yourself. So he didn't take a watch.
Hmm.
And so he was showing us how to figure out what the time was by using his fingers between the horizon and the sun.
Hmm.
And he got it perfectly. He
Wow.
said it's about 12:30 now, and he explained how to figure it out. And then the show was like, it's 12:36.
Wow. Good on
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, it was so cool. So
So,
just knowing things like that,
mhm,
I think, is hugely enriching.
yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to say is that I think the reason why information like that goes in and it sticks, because I've figured that, the little bits and pieces that I've figured out or that I've learned because I'm interested, has stayed in my brain, because we know inherently in our bodies that that's information that could help us.
Yeah.
So our bodies and our brains just hang on to stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's intuitive.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So, and it's fun. I think it's fun, that
It is fun.
stuff.
It is fun.
Yeah. So tell us about Bali then, because
Um,
that's a completely different. environment for Australia
Yeah, it was very different to
and New Zealand. It's different.
any traveling that I've done so far. Bali was really beautiful. It was very touristy, but I learned
In some
so I did
areas.
my yoga teacher training. I'm a certified yoga teacher now. And I did it in Bali because it was like no matter where you go it's expensive, but in Bali it was like the same price as doing it anywhere else. So and then
It
I
was a
also
little bit
got
cheaper, wasn't it?
it was actually a little bit cheaper, not by much, but still. And then I also got to be in Bali, so I decided to do it. And yeah, I learnt a lot from teachers that actually learnt in the world capital for yoga, which is Rishikesh in India. And yeah, two of my teachers were from there, and then I also had other teachers that were like from Bali or Indonesia. I don't think she was from Bali, but she was from Indonesia, and she'd been practicing for decades.
Mm.
And so, you know, it was I learned a lot about what yoga is actually about, and I don't still know. Like I still don't know. You couldn't learn in 3 weeks. Like yoga is a whole philosophy, a whole it's not just the poses that you learn. It's like one of my teachers said, if you're only doing yoga on the mat, then you're not practicing yoga, you're practicing yoga poses. And it's really accurate. Like yoga is what you do off the mat too, and like the way that you live and the way that you treat others.
It's a
And
philosophy.
yeah, it's and I wasn't expecting to learn all that going into this. I was expecting to learn. It was actually really good because I was expecting it all to be about like safety and making sure you're not getting sued from
All
your
right.
students. Like I was really worried about that type of thing because, you know, in today's world, it's like
A lot of it is that.
it's a lot of it is that, and
Mm.
it we did learn about safe practice, of course, but it wasn't just about
It wasn't the
that.
focus.
No, it wasn't the
Yeah.
focus. And it was really valuable. It was just a really valuable thing, even if you walk out not ever being a yoga teacher, not ever teaching yoga, you still get so much out of it. And yeah, it was really interesting and kind of a big thing that we learned as well was about how yoga isn't just like good yoga isn't just what you see on Instagram, like with all the really aesthetic poses and stuff. And that the poses that you see online, not everyone in your class is going to be able to do them, no matter how long they practice, no matter how flexible or strong or whatever they are, because there's actual like um differences in the body. So like the way that someone's shoulder joint actually is built in their body, they might not be able to put their shoulder back like really, really far because of the way that their shoulder is built. And there's nothing they can do about it. It's just it's bone on bone the second that they go so far and they can't go any further.
Mm.
And so you can't be pushing people into poses. You have to be creating well, not creating the pose, but like showing them the pose so it feels good for them and their body.
Yes.
And it
So
was
true.
just really eye-opening because I didn't realize that there's so many different, like even just um hip, your hip bones or your pelvis. Men only have one type of pelvis shape bone, and there's different kinds of pelvis shapes. Men only have one. Women have a spectrum of all different
Is that
types.
because they're childbearing?
I think so.
Mm.
And so men's are a lot skinnier and like not meant for childbearing, obviously. Women's are generally more bigger and more wider and helps with giving birth. But then also women can have the same shape as what a man has.
Yes.
And it's really wild. And I didn't realize that. And like the way that your femur can link to your pelvis, some people literally can't put their legs like high up behind them. Like they literally can only put their leg so far,
Quarter of the way,
yeah,
maybe.
quarter of the way, or however much, because of the way that their bone is connected to their pelvic bone, and like it literally won't let them because it's bone on bone. And so yeah, I didn't realize that at all, and just to learn that was so valuable, that yoga, being a yoga teacher on the mat, is about creating an environment where people feels good and safe in their bodies. Because I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people watching this have gone to a yoga class, myself included, and you watch the teacher, or you're watching other people, and you're like, oh, I can't do that, I can't do that, and you get in your head and your ego a lot.
Mm.
And your job as a yoga teacher is to help people move past that, move through that, and just like feel good in their body with whatever they can do in that lesson.
And that whole Instagram style of yoga, like where it is about what you look like when you're posing and
Yeah.
the ego
It's
layer.
literally the opposite of what yoga is about.
Yeah, and I think that modern day teachers now have like that's a layer that they need to break through,
Yeah.
which I don't, because when I was growing up, there was yoga, but it wasn't very popular. And I think social media has really grown the
Yeah.
idea of yoga into this,
Because it's cool and you can
yeah,
do really cool stuff. And
which
there's a
is it's a
line,
double-edged sword, isn't it?
yeah.
Because it's made yoga a lot more popular, but it's also given it this reputation of being about the way you look.
And also, I think if you shift the focus from the way that you look to the way that you feel,
Mm,
you'll get better results. Because if you're thinking about the way that you feel, and being flexible feels good. At least in my experience, being flexible in my body feels good for me, at least.
yeah, gives you a better
And
range of movement. So getting out of a chair is easier,
yeah,
walking around.
mobility,
Yeah.
and but doing yoga every day feels good for me. It feels really, really good. I've noticed a difference in my strength, in my mobility, in my flexibility, in everything.
Mm,
And naturally, if you're focusing more on the way that you feel, you're going to want to do it more. You're going to get more flexible. You're going to get
yes.
more. You're going to get more.
The
You're going to get
motivation will be there.
into more poses, and into poses easier. And I think that,
It all comes
especially
down
as
to the
someone,
intention, is it? The intention of it, of
yeah,
why you're doing
but
it.
I think as someone who is now technically a yoga teacher, I haven't taught yoga yet, but I have the certificate. It is a goal of mine to get into harder poses, to do more advanced yoga, but it's going to take a while. Number one, it takes years and years of practice, and some poses, and who knows what poses my body literally cannot get into as
Mm,
well. But also, it's not about showing off or any of that. It's about advancing my practice, because my practice makes me feel good. That's like kind of
and you
what
want
it's
to
about.
share that.
So you can still want to look, or you can maybe don't even say look, but like you can still want to get flexible and strong and stuff, but you have to rewire the way that you're saying it to yourself, and the way that you're like,
Mm,
yeah, you can't let it come from a place of ego, because ego is all about how it looks, but you want to focus more on how it feels. And it doesn't matter if you shift the focus that way, because you're going to get better results than you're actually going to get results. Because if you're just worried about what it looks like, you're probably not going to get the results that you want. Most of the time
mhm.
you just give up, because it's not coming from a driving like want in yourself that like gets you, I don't know, it doesn't give you that much fuel. I feel like when you want things from your ego, it doesn't give you enough fuel to actually get there. When you want things from the right place, like from your heart or from your soul, it's always got enough fuel to
Mm.
push you there.
Because I feel like ego is like when something goes wrong. So if you hit an obstacle, say,
Mm-hmm.
in your journey, if you want, we're talking about yoga, so if you want the poses because you want to look good, and then you can't get that pose because, like you said, your body just doesn't want to move in those
It
directions.
literally can't.
Yeah, it can't because of the way you're built. Then you're going to give up because
Mm.
it's like, oh, it's no good, I can't do it. And then you feel down on yourself, and it's like this spiral.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're coming from a different intention, because you said focus, but I think it's more intention than focus,
Mm-hmm.
because when the intention is there, that's where the focus goes.
Mm-hmm.
So if your intention is, I want to feel good, like you said, then those obstacles, you work ways around them
Yeah.
and you accept them, that that is your body.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, that's my limit. And the self love that you have
Mm-hmm.
then to say, okay, that's my limit. I understand it. Thank you, body, for showing me that. And then you go in a different direction.
And also, like, I want to express just because it's like, just because your body can't do a certain movement doesn't mean that it can't be modified to do
Yes.
something that might even be cooler. Like, you might not be able to straighten your leg back, but you might be able to bend it and hold it
Mm.
because that works the joint a little.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody else about this stuff the other day.
Sweated. It's not necessarily a limitation of your
No,
body because,
no.
yeah, it's not about
Oh, it
limits.
was Anne Marie, my friend. She was
Hmm.
talking about she was doing something as a teenager. I can't remember. I think it was running, or she was doing some kind of sport as a teenager, and she fell over and uh, um, fell on a rock, and the rock penetrated her knee and damaged her knee quite badly. And so she then couldn't do what she did before because she had an injury. But instead of giving up, she modified the way she was doing the sport,
Mm,
and she continued doing it because she found a way around it.
that's good.
So it's so funny because that conversation I only had like a week ago,
Yeah,
and now we're having this conversation,
yeah,
which is the exact same thing. It's the message is the same. You don't have to give up because it's difficult or you can't do it. You can find a way around it. And I think that's a huge positive lesson
yeah,
in life,
yeah.
because I've been guilty myself of being hard on myself and giving up because I thought I was no good at something. And I think that's also something that comes out of the 80s too. It was a real thing in the 80s. It was like, well, why would you waste your time on something that you can't do?
Yeah.
You know? So it was like, oh, I'm not good at that, so I'm not going to do that. Even if I enjoyed it,
Mm.
even if it was something I was enjoying. And it was like this idea that if you can't make a living at it, you can't make money at it, why are you doing it? Because the fact that you enjoy doing it wasn't
Wasn't enough.
enough.
Yeah, yeah.
And I realize now, how damaging that is, and
Mm.
how, because I loved
It's
art.
still, it's still, it's still such a huge program in even
Mm.
today's world. Like, oh, I want hobbies, or like even things like artistic hobbies. It's like, oh, well, I'm getting into crochet, maybe I'll turn it into a way to make money. And I think that can sometimes be a really good thing,
Yes, sometimes,
but
not
other
all the
times,
time.
yeah, we need to do more things just because we enjoy them.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because we enjoy it.
For no, like, just to be frivolous.
Hmm.
I think frivolity has got a really huge place in our lives.
Hmm.
It's something that adds, like,
But
just
we're
having it.
turning it into a materialistic thing. Frivolity is like it's turned into, oh, I'll treat myself. I'm gonna buy this thing.
Yes,
But and I think we've turned it that way because we don't have, um, I guess,
we
we
haven't
never
given
taught
ourselves the
it's,
permission.
yeah, to just like spend time frivolously.
Yeah.
instead of spending money frivolously.
Yeah. Or thinking, this is another thing, or thinking that giving yourself that freedom to be frivolous is frivolous.
Mm.
That frivolity is a bad thing. Like, because I know if I ever sat down to watch telly
Yeah.
when I was a kid, it would rub my mother up the wrong way so badly. And she would come in because my mum couldn't sit still. I think she had ADHD or something. It was
Mm.
undiagnosed because she could not sit still, that woman. And I would just want to relax, say on a Saturday morning, because school was hard.
Yeah.
School was hard work.
Yeah.
And I would come home from school and would just want to chill out on a Saturday. And she would come in with her mop, mopping the floor. And I'd be sitting there watching telly and she'd be like, you're not doing that today. Outside, get outside, go and do something, go and do your homework, or you're not just sitting there watching TV. And so I would feel guilty. So much of my young life, I wouldn't allow myself to be frivolous or to just
Mm.
watch telly or to just be,
Yeah.
because I would just feel so guilty because my mum programmed me to think there was something wrong with
Yeah.
that. And so now, though, I find so much healing for myself. This is just me, in just being on my own and just chilling out and watching something on Netflix or, whatever.
Yeah.
And we use it as family time sometimes, don't we? We get together and we watch a movie as family time
Yeah.
and just being together,
Yeah.
not having to do anything, I think is really that, because I grew up thinking that was frivolous,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not. It has merit and it has huge impact, a positive impact on us.
Yeah. And yeah, I think also just doing things that are creative
Mm,
as well,
yeah, it's because you like doing it.
just because you like doing it. Yeah. It's a bit of a, I think that's why I think that's actually one of the reasons why I decided to become a yoga teacher because I actually, well, it's something that I enjoy doing,
Mm,
but it's not something that I ever did. Like I never did yoga every single day. Like it was never a huge deal or a huge thing. It's like that I loved so much. Like it was something that I enjoyed, and I was like, I would enjoy teaching this, and I would enjoy um, doing this as a job. And the reason why I think I would enjoy it as a job was because it wasn't ever like this thing I did for me
mm.
alone every single day. Like I think if I did it, if it was such a huge me thing, then I wouldn't want to ever find a
So
way
you
to
feel
earn
like
money.
it would be bastardized in a
Well,
way?
no, it's just because I have a huge habit of anything that yeah, like I don't know, I just don't think that I do creative things. Like anytime, let me word this. How do I word this? I just feel like whenever I do a creative project, I'm like, oh, I've really enjoyed doing that. How can I make money from doing that? Because I would love to make money in this feeling. But the whole reason I'm feeling so good doing this creative thing is because there is no
Pressure.
ulterior motive on it. And
Yeah.
but yoga was never like that for me. I mean,
That's a
I
huge lesson to learn at your age,
yeah.
Juliet.
But I just I liked doing yoga. It wasn't that I didn't like it. I actually really enjoyed it. And I also did really want to learn more about it. But I never had that thing of like, oh, I love doing this. How do I make money doing this? It was never like that. It was just like, okay, well, it's time for me to find a job that brings me joy. And yoga brings me joy, but I never wanted, like it was, I don't know. I just worked it
I
out.
want to challenge you in this, the way you're thinking that you have to have a job to make money, because this is something that has been coming to me a lot recently,
Hmm.
because you've got a mother who works in a job to make money, but that was my choice.
Hmm.
You don't have to have a job to make money. You can make money many other ways. there's like you can have multiple income streams. You don't actually have to have a job. You can make money out of your skills,
Yeah.
um, and create a life where you're a skilled person and people pay you for those skills, but it doesn't have to be just a job, one thing.
I
Do you
know.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the reason I haven't fully done that yet is because I also want to feel joy, and I haven't figured. I mean, yoga is kind of me trying it out for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't, yeah, up until now, I haven't really found anything that brings me joy that can also bring me money, and
Mm-hmm.
I would deeply enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't yet. That's why I've done jobs. Not that jobs give me joy either. So even with jobs, I don't
But
find joy.
they're a means to an end because you're doing them in exchange for money.
Yeah, but I don't
And you
plan on working for
no.
years and years and years.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it was just because I
So
didn't
this is
know what
the
else.
beginning of your journey. But
Mhm.
that's okay. I'm just saying that I'm putting this thought out there
Yeah,
like a little seed for you to either pick up or not. That you can reframe the way you make money,
yeah,
thinking around it.
yeah,
Yeah. And even now at your age, you can start putting things out there, like digital products or, there's lots of different ways to make money that you're not actually spending, like
yeah,
exchanging your time
yeah,
for financial gain.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, which is a huge lesson.
yeah.
So, what are we?
We've got 10 minutes, 10 more minutes.
Yeah, so is there anything that you want to say about your recent travels that you want to talk about, or do you
Um,
want to take it in a different direction altogether?
I'm trying to think.
Because actually, I think some of the subjects that we've covered today have been like surprising
Yeah,
and really good.
yeah. I wasn't expecting you to talk about toilets today.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I just, yeah,
Are you glad to be home, like back in Australia?
I don't know. It feels a bit, I'm not gonna lie, I feel a bit numb just because I've been traveling for so long and so much every day. There's new things that are happening, and I don't even register where I am. Like in Bali, the whole time, I never really like fully processed the fact I was in Bali because
You were there to do a job. You were there to
I was there
learn.
to learn, and then also I just come from like a month of crazy road tripping, and then I was in Sydney for a few days, and then I was in Bali. And when you do travel like that, you're like you feel like you're in the Matrix. Like I genuinely felt like I was teleporting. Like it wasn't real that I genuinely traveled those distances because New Zealand and Bali are actually pretty far away. Like
Yeah.
it's like 10 hours, I think, or something, not
Yeah.
quite 9 or something like that. And um it was just wild that like 9 hours flight, I mean. And it was just wild that one day I flew from New Zealand to Australia, was in Australia for like a few days, and then I was in Bali. I didn't even register the fact I was in Australia between there. It was just like,
Your
yeah,
brain can't catch up.
it really does feel like I'm in the Matrix and I can just go wherever I want,
Mm-hmm.
and like I can just be there. And you don't, when you're traveling in an airplane, you just don't have the processing of like, oh, I'm here now. Just like it just feels like I'm traveling through dimensions. It's really weird. It's really weird. Yeah. And now I'm in Melbourne. I've never been in Melbourne for longer than like a day or two. And I don't even register that I'm here yet.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about Melbourne. What do you think of Melbourne?
I actually really, I was thinking about this last night. Melbourne is a cooler city than Sydney. Sydney is a more beautiful city than Melbourne. Like Sydney is the beautiful city. Melbourne is the actually cool city. Like
I
it's a
think
cool city.
the way I look at it, I think like Sydney is like a New York vibe. Like it's
Mm.
metropolitan. It's a little bit sterile.
Yeah,
It is a little bit sterile,
yeah,
but it is extremely beautiful.
yeah. It's a really beautiful city.
Yeah. Whereas I think Melbourne has a more of a European vibe where it's a little bit grungier, but it's really
The
cool.
restaurants are really cool. There was never one restaurant or like place that we went to that it was like, this is crap. Like the food is always incredible. The coffee is really, really good.
And we went to the AFL
Every
last
yeah,
night.
the experiences at every single place have been really, really cool.
And because we love AFL in our family because my son plays it and he's obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And we kind of gotten into it as a family.
Hmm.
And we've been to the SCG a few times to watch
Which is
games,
the Sydney,
cricket ground.
yeah, it's the Sydney, well,
That's where they play.
that's where they play. It's called the cricket ground because they have cricket. We have cricket in summer and then AFL in winter.
Mm,
And it's also the AFL ground in winter.
yeah. And we went to the MCG, which is the Melbourne Cricket Ground,
Yeah.
last night for a game. It was the Melbourne Demons against Brisbane Lions. And wow, what an exciting game it was too.
I actually didn't think it was that.
I did. I thought it was
I thought
great.
no, because I just knew the whole time who was gonna like it was pretty
Yes, you are correct because Lions came out front pretty quick and
yeah.
they were the better team and they won.
But I thought it was a good game. I thought it had good vibes.
Yeah, but I couldn't help comparing the experience at the SCG that we had because that was we'd never been to the MCG watch a game. We've been there, but not to watch a game
Yeah.
before. And yeah, it was just so the vibe was completely different.
Mm.
Um, the Melbourne people take it so much more seriously, and their reactions are a lot more potent, and they really like the energy is really in the
Yeah.
game. In Sydney, people are there, they're watching the game, and they get into it, but they're not. It's more of a social thing. It's like
Yeah.
they're going with their family, they're having a day out, that the game is not the only thing
Mm.
that they're there for.
Yeah.
Whereas in Melbourne, you can tell that the people are
It's more
there
serious.
to watch their team.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the excitement, the electricity in the crowd was a lot more potent.
Yeah. And I think I just overall Melbourne is just like I mean, okay, I will say public transport in Sydney is a lot
Mm.
better
Well, we're staying in Rye, which is down in the Mornington Peninsula.
and it's kind of far out.
Yeah, and there's not a direct route
Mm.
for public transport. You have to like, and we don't have our car here. And so we've been relying on public transport to get around.
Yeah.
And to get into the city from here is like painful.
It is very painful, but
Yeah.
it's prettier here than it is like I feel like even just the where we are nature wise,
Oh, it's so
it's
beautiful.
really
We're
beautiful
right near
and
the
we're not
water.
and honestly we're not that far out of the city. I mean
No,
we are, but
we're
not
an hour and a half by car,
yeah.
3 hours by public transport, which is I think a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because you can't go straight into the city. You've got to go
Yeah.
along the coast and then up
Yeah.
into the city. But yeah, it's been challenging, but it's been worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a nice little holiday.
And the Mornington Peninsula is stunning.
Yes.
Even in grey, cloudy, rainy weather,
Yeah.
which is what we've had
It's
since we've been here.
cold here.
Yeah.
I just in Bali, it's
You've
so
gone
hot.
from some like the
Yeah.
summer vibes to the
Honestly, in
winter
Bali,
vibes.
if you just breathe and you go outside and you just breathe, you start sweating. Like and that's not even a joke. Like it was really intense. Like even just walking, it's so humid and it's so hot that just being outside makes you sweat. Like you don't even have to do anything.
Yeah.
And then especially on top of that, doing all the yoga that I was doing, it was like I was dripping sweat onto my mat every single day.
You just have to get used to it.
Well, I did kind of by the end. It
Mm.
was never like I sweated so much I no longer got BO. Like that's how much I sweat. I was no longer smelly because I sweated it all out.
Yeah,
Like it
good.
was that much. I think I sweated like on average like 1.5 liters every day.
We've gone from toilet talk to sweat talk.
Sweat. And yeah, and then I've come to Melbourne and it's like I have to wear like 3, 4
Layers.
layers of clothes. Like that's what I mean when I say it feels like I've teleported.
Mm,
Like it, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah.
So we done?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Thanks for the chat, Juliet. It's been really good.
You're welcome.
I know it was a big deal for you to get up.
No, it wasn't. It was fine. I was just tired from we had a late
Yeah,
because of
big
the
day yesterday.
AFL game, and then we had to we didn't get home till like 12:30, and then we had to wake up. So anyway, but it wasn't a big deal. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you everyone for watching. And we'll
Yes.
see you next week.
Yes, next week. Mwah.
Bye bye.
See everybody.
Where's the end button? Here it is.